Well, everyone's going to have to deal with socks on the floor and towels in the bathroom.
But not everyone has the ability to separate the socks on the floor as like, hey, that's your own personal value. And you're doing this intentionally to hurt me.
Yeah. Face towels in the potty. That's what I do.
Oh my God, what is that?
What?
What is that?
What's that?
Face towels on the
falling
potty.
into the kid's potty. It's
okay.
Life with kids, yeah.
Welcome back to Sam and Jen Got Divorced. We are here with another great episode for you today. We've got our special guest, Jeff Yana, and
Good evening.
It's going to be good. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you both.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Jeff.
I asked Samuel why he was wearing different clothing for this episode, and he said he'd tell me on camera.
Okay.
Yeah. Genevieve's dad actually got this outfit for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, from
as
Nigeria.
a wedding present?
No, I think he took annual trips to Nigeria.
Okay.
And then when we were together, there was one annual trip that occurred while we were together, and he asked what sizes I was, and this is the only one that still fits.
Wonderful. We'll start just by dealing with some of the general questions here on the topic, which is talking about little things that cause big issues in marriage. Mm-hmm. And so we'll talk after about big things that cause big issues, but we're starting with the little things. So there's this phrase, it's the little things, that cause big issues. Little foxes spoil the vine is Song of Solomon 2:15. Can you recall a specific little thing that became a point of contention in your marriage? How did it escalate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I realized, even as you said the title, I was like, yeah, the title is so deceiving because we're talking about little things, but there really is no such thing as a little thing, especially if it's a big thing to you. One of the things that I didn't realize at the time was that I am a notorious and serial minimizer. Everything is, that's just the way it is. Oh, don't worry about it. And oh, that's no big deal. Just very dismissive, minimizing. I chalk that up to my laissez-faire, cool, chill, easygoing personality. And so I don't let a lot of things ruffle my feathers, pretty even keel, level-headed, all that stuff. But I didn't realize how harmful that kind of approach or response is to others when they bring things to me that are a big deal to them. It's kind of like, well, it's not a big deal to me, so it can't really be a big deal to them. Or they just need to figure out how to not make it a big deal to them. So small things or little things to one person doesn't mean that it's small things or little things to another person, right? So I definitely learned the hard way.
And you said, the question was, could you think of an example? Is that what you asked?
Oh, an example. Oh my gosh, there's countless examples. Samuel used to, Samuel used to bring little things all the time.
We're starting with little things, yeah.
A specific example? Do you remember when, I don't know what you were making. You were making something. Food or
I knew this would involve the kitchen.
It was something to eat or drink, but you wanted me to try it. And I was like, I don't want to try it.
I've had this happen before.
Have you?
They say, taste it. And you say no.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, I don't want to.
I've literally had 3 or 4 rounds of and they're like, why won't you just taste it? And I'm like, I have multiple reasons. I don't even need to tell you right now why I don't want that in my mouth right now.
I thought this was just me. I did not know that this is a regular marriage.
No, it happens. Okay. It happens. But I remember that time and I was like, no, I don't want to. And he was like, just taste it. And it was like this big thing, right? To me, it was like, I just don't want to.
Yeah,
like,
my
what's
wife
the big
makes
deal?
me her like just taste it person. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm very specific and picky about times that I eat. And
right.
Like if
but
I'm still drinking
personal?
my coffee,
is it personal?
I'm not eating like your soup. I think it's important though to delineate little things from big things. I do think there is a real difference in category. And I think the little things are something we all are going to have to deal with. I think getting married to someone else is going to involve dealing with little things. And yes,
Absolutely.
they can feel like big things,
Mhm.
but they're ultimately not deal breakers. They're just part of the painful reality of life that we have to go through.
Yeah, and I think it's how we respond to them that matters, right? Because
Well said.
if you say it's important to me,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I can't tell you that it's not important to you, right? And I think that's part of how we do relationships well.
Mhm.
Honoring the fact that this is important to you, even when it's not important to me. Like, I don't care. I
Oh,
don't,
yeah. No,
right?
I
But you
totally,
care.
once you've communicated that, I think it's very important to listen to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's in the response.
Even if it's something arbitrary, seemingly, or silly. If someone says, I just really, really don't like X or
Right.
Y, and you're like, what on earth?
Right.
But then again, there's still times I don't want to put soup in my mouth when I'm drinking coffee, and they're like, just taste it.
Like
You know?
in that situation, it's a little thing to the other person. Let's say it's your wife in this example.
Yeah.
She's like, why won't you just put it in your mouth? It's such a small deal. In your mind, it's like, why would I put this in my mouth? It's such a small
And then
deal.
it's funny too, because they're
Why
like, I
you-
want to
this
see
is
if
why
it
you-
burns. And it's like,
Exactly.
so you want to hurt me, you know?
Even having knowledge about why it's a big deal or why it's important to us, right? Because giving that backstory can make the difference.
Mhm.
It can make the difference between how your partner responds to you with validation or with dismissal. Hey, this is really important to me. I'd like you to listen and hear me out. Really looking for your understanding, your input. Like having those kinds of words or that kind of language to articulate what is important to you and why it's important to you can have a big impact. And I also think just sort of cultivating the skill of responding in a validating way and listening well. I think those are skills that we have to learn in life, but especially in marriage.
Do you have anything to add, Samuel?
Not really. I think Genevieve said it really well. Yeah, nothing to add at this point.
She had no little foxes that you
Well, no,
wanted
I mean,
to...
we could both make long lists of times when something was important to us that was not important to the other person, and at times when something was important to the other person that was not important to us. At the time, one of the critiques, ironically, that Genevieve had, not ironically, was the way that I dressed. I thought that was a little thing. I thought that people who focus on the way people are dressed are shallow, that this is not an important element of anybody's character. For me, how I dressed was how I marketed or gaslit everyone else. Like, this is what I wanted them to think. But at home, I know who I am, whether I'm wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt with holes in it or I'm wearing a button-up suit. So in my mind, I was like, why does my wife care how I dress? She knows me. She knows my character.
At home or outside?
Genevieve wanted...
She wants you to wear a suit at home?
No.
Oh.
She wanted... The way that she wanted me to present when I was in public particularly, she wanted me to dress in a way that she found respectable. And at the time, I was like, this is such a small deal. I would rather be comfortable. Unless I'm trying to get a job, like anybody who thinks that my character can be measured by what I'm wearing can kick rocks. That's how I generally felt at the time. I don't feel that way now, but that's how I felt at the time. So for me, Genevieve tried in a myriad of different ways to communicate to me that this was a big deal to her, but I minimized that because it was minimal in my mind.
So what changed in your perspective on that?
Same thing that we're talking about right now, which is that I don't have the right to decide what's a big deal or a small deal. Society at large, in part, evaluates you based on how you present yourself, right? So
you're confined by that?
Confined is a strong word, but the more that I can be conscious of that, like, let me rephrase this. The reason that I was so dismissive of that concept was because I was making myself big and society small. I was like, all that matters is how I see myself. And that's only partially true. Perhaps the most important thing is my own self-perception, if I know that I'm doing the right thing or behaving in the right way. But it also does matter how other people feel, what other people think. Doors can be open, doors can be closed. There's a measure of humility that's involved in understanding that other people, how they feel and what they want and what they need matters, right? And that's that overall, that's a perspective that I've had that has shifted more. I put more stake into what other people need and want and feel than I did 10 years ago.
Yeah. And I think that is so relevant to this conversation. Like the idea that we can grow into recognizing how our perceptions and responses impact other people. And is that the impact that we're looking to have? Like, do I want to make you feel small? Do I want to feel bigger and better or smarter? than other people. And in this case, we're talking about intimate relationship and partnership. Do I want to make myself feel and look better than my partner, or make my partner feel small or worse than me? Like is that the goal? Like, did I wake up this morning and think, oh, I just want to hurt my partner? Yay. Goal accomplished at the end of the day, when my partner feels as though I've invalidated them, dismissed them, and minimized what's important to them. Is that the goal? Is that where we're going for? And so asking ourselves those kind of questions, those are humility based questions,
Right.
right? That's like, hey, how do I really want to show up and make people feel? And what am I doing in order to align with that? Or what am I not doing that's taking me away from that?
Yeah.
And I think every time, we know it, we feel it on the inside. Every time someone minimizes something that is important to us, we feel small. We feel unimportant. We feel like we don't matter. We hurt. It's painful.
Did Genevieve minimize anything that was very important to you?
Yeah, a number of things. And some of them were small, relatively speaking, and some of them were big.
What's the big ones?
This is getting kind of deep, but I wanted as we've talked about, the reason that we got divorced was because Genevieve spearheaded that decision based on my actions and behaviors, and I wanted at the time Genevieve to work with me as I was trying to obtain healing and try to live a different way than I had been living, and Genevieve did. She put in some radical measures in supporting me.
Yeah.
Right. But for her, ultimately what happened was, from my perspective at least, let me just say that, was that I thought that what Genevieve would have to endure to stay with me was relatively small given the scope of our marriage and commitment to each other. And Genevieve thought that was too big / too much to handle or overcome or bear with.
You wanted her to do more in terms of saying, really?
Yeah.
How can you even have an expectation of someone doing more when they're already just exceeding in the grace category beyond what I think there's any? I've never met a person with a historical precedent of giving their spouse so much time and support to overcome their challenges and help them in the process. So to say, I'm just, we'll need to think about that a bit to hear that you would have wanted. I get it. Yeah, you had a goal in mind, right? And you think if she stayed on course, maybe that goal could have been achieved. But for her, ultimately, she already went above and beyond a million times over in a way that many people don't even give their spouse the opportunity to make those sort of changes that she let you make, right? For a long period of time.
Yeah, 100%. And I think both ring true for me. Genevieve did go above and beyond. She did endure more than any wife or spouse should have to handle. And she did do so gracefully. And she did give me chance after chance after chance. She did work with me. She sacrificed her time, her energy, her health, her emotions, right? The sacrifice she gave went over and above what I think any spouse is obligated to give. That's what you're saying, and I believe that, actually. I'm not just saying that to make another point. I actually do believe that. I think the other side...
Do you think you were close to hitting the goal? Do you think if she just stuck it out, and aside from her commitment, do you think you could have hit that and you guys could have made it?
My paradigm is not about close or far. That's not the way that I look at marriage. If you have a goal, no matter the goal, you never actually know how long it's going to take. You never do. All you have is projections and guesses. What I would have liked, to put it simply, is for her to stick it out until we hit that goal. Yeah.
You must have some thoughts. I don't know if you're willing to how much you're willing to share them.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. And we're talking about small things.
Good point.
But we've also said little things can become big things. The question also involves which little things escalate. So it's fine to go into that into that category.
It's challenging well, okay. I'll say this. At the time, and maybe this is a perspective point, because small things can lead to big things, and big things can become small things. And the ways in which we ask ourselves questions and grow in our own self-awareness or determination to accept things and people can change the size of the thing, right? So if I'm like up close to a tree, it looks huge. Oh my goodness. But if I'm really far away, it looks really tiny. So our closeness to a thing can change how big it is, how impactful it is, how much it weighs, how much pressure. So I think in terms of me looking back, the person I am today, because I've grown, would have a very different response to the situation back then. So my capacity is greater to handle or to manage or to work with or to work through or what have you. But at the time, absolutely never not. I would have died. Like I just didn't have the stretch. It's like a rubber band you try and stretch. A rubber band that you leave outside in the cold and then you try to stretch it. It's going to break, right? So I was that rubber band. Like I didn't have capacity. Today, yeah, okay, I've been stretched, I've grown, learned some things, whatever. So today, it seems like a smaller thing than it did back then.
Yeah.
But that's why you ultimately, in his words, which I'm not sure you would agree with the characterization, but he said you spearheaded, the choice to get divorced.
I spearhead
Yeah, but
the
which was,
initiation.
but it
I
was a
spearheaded the
reaction.
initiation
It
of
was a
divorce.
reaction
It was a decision, a very firm one.
in response to a set of behaviors
Mm-hmm.
that were not, in your view, being properly managed.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Mhm.
Oh,
So,
And that I didn't understand.
but it's not like something, it wasn't something you took the lead on. It was something you essentially had to do and were permitted to do and can do.
100%. So, I mean, there's that. Like, you disqualified yourself.
Mhm.
There's that aspect.
Yep.
There are a lot of people who disqualify themselves and work through it. And
Yeah,
rebuild.
yeah. And you were attempting to be one of those people.
But I didn't have a framework for that in my mind.
Well, you
like,
must
that
have,
wasn't
because you
even, like-
tried. Many people wouldn't try.
well, try, yeah. I
and you
mean,
tried for a while.
Effort, sure. I'm always gonna try. I'm always gonna try.
Apparently.
Yes, but trying doesn't mean like you always get it. Like
Apparently.
you don't always.
Fortunately.
Don't always. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, and it's not even that I couldn't have gotten it. It was that I wasn't willing at the time to try any further. Like I wasn't willing to try because in my mind, like I just didn't have what it took. I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the space, the resources. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, and
all
who's
I know
even
how to do right
asking
now
you to try
is
at that
survive.
point? Who's even asking you to try at that point? I'm not even sure
Right.
the
and
divine
he
voice.
wasn't asking me to try.
Uh-huh.
I didn't feel like I.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, I definitely didn't feel the divine voice was asking me to try. I didn't feel that at all.
But to her point, right? Had it been a different situation, you've said this on a previous episode. Other people have gone through what we've gone through and are still married,
Of course,
right?
yeah.
It's not an impossibility. It's not a. It's not even.
I don't know if people have gone through what you went through to the extent and for the time frame.
They have.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, because you know more than me about
right. Yeah.
these, whatever it is you're talking about. So I didn't know that.
Right. Yeah.
But my perspective and knowledge is limited.
But to Genevieve's point, yeah, that's a big thing. That's a macro example. I mean, there was small things that both of us did that that felt like big things at the time, for sure.
And maybe context also matters. Like there wasn't enough skin in the game. Like,
For who, from who?
For me, there wasn't enough skin in the game. Like sometimes we
You
talk
mean
about
from
like,
his perspective?
from my perspective.
Oh,
Like
you put your skin in the game?
well, it's almost like I can walk away. We didn't have kids.
Okay.
We didn't own acres of land or whatever. Like I can just walk away.
If you had, here's a hypothetical question.
Yeah.
And some exploratory creative moment here.
Mhm.
Potentially helpful question as well for other listeners is what, I don't know, maybe you've given thought to this. What would have been different if you have had kids right away?
Oh, yes. I've definitely given thought to that. It would have been more difficult for me to make a decision. I'm not sure
For sure.
what the decision would have been. But then there would have also been a different focus or a divided focus.
Yeah.
Right? So my attention wouldn't be fully on the damage or the destruction or the demise of the marriage or what have you. It would be on, oh my goodness, what is best for this child? Right? So that's a completely different focus.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
didn't have any skin in the game. So it was easy for me to say, well, I'm out because, bruh.
Yeah, whereas some people then would say what's best for the child is like run. Others would say like stick together. They need a family,
Right.
you know?
Right. And I'm very much the latter.
Yeah,
I'm very
yeah,
much
yeah,
the
yeah,
latter.
yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
In the last episode, the concept of a double life was divulged and identified without too much detail about it. But I remember when I got a phone call from Samuel when he used those words. I wasn't a kind of knowing, aware person about all that was happening. I also got a call one day and I was like, what are you talking about? What does this mean?
yeah.
And he gave me one major category and one minor category. And we both kind of went through in some ways something similar in terms of having that divulged to us. And also we're in some sort of agreement about the potential rehabilitation. Do you think that's ultimately, whether we talk about little things or big things, Samuel, is that what contributed to the divorce, that issue? So we can put all the little things aside, flaws aside. Is that the fundamental issue?
Well, yeah.
And if so, how do we stop? How do you help people from falling into the same traps that you would have found yourself in so you can help them avoid that?
I think that might be a question for another episode, and not just one other episode. I think that's a large macro question
Okay.
that we can continue to kind of tease out and talk about, and we have talked about to some degree. In brief, yes, that was definitely the big thing. I think that when we talk about the little things that can compromise a marriage,
can little things compromise a marriage? Because I think little things are to be, I think if you go into it thinking, hey, if I encounter little things from my spouse, even if they really bother me, like my marriage will be compromised. Rather than what about having the expectation, like going and thinking, marriage involves like painfully working it out. It's two different people. Men and women are radically different. There's going to be lots of little things. Instead of us having all these prerequisites as well of, oh, they've got to meet this, and this, and then being disappointed.
And you're also highly relationally intelligent. So most people don't think that way. Most people are thinking, I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 10 fulfilled. And if you don't do that and you don't make me happy, then
a lot of them stay by themselves for a long time too.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Here's what I think actually happens, and I'm going to say most marriages that I know of,
Fair enough,
ours included. You go in thinking, hey, we're going to work it out, right? There's going to be some things, there's going to be some challenges.
Oh, yep.
There's going to be some things that they want that I'm going to have to adjust to. And then when you actually get there, you don't realize what they are. And we can talk about the big things, but there's a lot of little things. There's a lot of, I put my socks on the floor every day when I come home, right? And she hates that. And what ends up happening is she talks to me about it the first time. And then I say, sure, honey, no problem. But I have lived a life of putting my socks there. So the habit is not broken just because I said, sure, I hear what you're saying. Or I say, hey, what's the big deal? Like, it's just socks on the floor. Like, who is this really hurting?
Right. And that is where we are at. The, hey, it's no big deal. And then the continuation of the behavior, whether it's a, yes, I'll try, or hey, it's a no big deal.
Right.
The continuation of the behavior has a way of turning into a direct assault. Like it's a direct attack on my ability to be loved, my desirability, all the things. It's like, well, you don't care about me because you done put your socks on the floor again, and you're not listening, and you don't love me, and all. And we do that from now till whenever.
And this happens both ways, both sides. Yeah.
But everyone's going to have to deal with socks on the floor and towels in the bathroom.
But not everyone has the ability to separate the socks on the floor as like, hey, that's your own personal value when it comes to like cleanliness or neatness. And you're doing this intentionally to hurt me.
Yeah. Face towels in the potty. That's what I do.
Oh my God, what is that?
What?
What is
that?
What's that?
Face
towels on the
falling
potty.
into the kid's potty. It says life with kids. Yeah.
Jeff, how many kids do you have?
4.
Yeah. So we never got to the face towels in the potty stage.
No, we don't have face towels in the potty.
My 14-month-old took his diaper off today, and Pood standing up in the living room.
Oh,
So,
lovely.
It was awesome. I mean, we picked him up, and yeah, it was awesome. Go Enoch. Yeah.
Oh my
Can't believe we
gosh.
missed that.
Yeah.
Yes, I can't. Oh my goodness, I don't even know what I'm doing with my life without
Little things, yeah.
in the
He'll-
living room.
He won't do it when he's older and married,
Let's
I
hope so.
hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so, because he might be.
because those little
Facing
foxes
divorce.
spoil the vine,
Yeah.
right?
That's actually a big thing, a really big thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, to bring us back, I think Genevieve and I seem to both agree that it's very common for both sides to have things that, like, for me, this is eating at me, that you keep doing it, and the other person's like, what's the big deal?
Okay, but marriage is hard enough with all these little things. Two people living together. Okay, it's tough enough. We can talk about socks till the cows come home and crumbs and
But this is
yeah,
the
but then
thing,
you go and
like-
add big things on top of it.
Okay, yes.
How can you? I mean,
Our hope is that by sharing our mistakes and what we've learned from them, be supporting healthy conversations in our communities. So if you're enjoying listening to this, do us a quick favor, like, comment, and subscribe. It's not only encouraging, but it helps us in tangible ways. Catch you on the next episode, family.